Happy Homemaker here. This is my husband's birthday gift. Happy birthday to you. And if we slide over here, I just finished watching The Booksellers, which is a documentary about booksellers. Those booksellers who have been in the city and other places forever. And it made me go to my bookshelf and pull out the oldest books in our library. And I must say that these days, most of my books end up in the hands of Danielle and Israel, or I give them to somebody like my friend Kathy, who reads them after I do. But I was intrigued to see what books I own after seeing The Booksellers. So let me take you on a little tour. Where did I get these books? That's a good question. My father and my uncle both were brought up in New York City. When my uncle was cleaning his apartment out, he sent a huge collection of books to my father because we had a house in New Jersey. Some of these books ended up in the living room next to the fireplace on the bookshelves, and some of them ended up in the basement on bookshelves down there. It was there that I first happened upon a pornographic novel called The Graduate, which I eagerly read cover to cover. And let me tell you, the movie The Graduate was much better than the book. So saying, what are the books that I saved? Well, that's a good question. Some of them I actually gave to my cousin Lori because they had her grandfather, my dad's brother, Arnold Mittenthal, had his name in the front of them. And some of them had my dad's name on them. I kept the oldest books from the basement, never thinking about it. The oldest books from next to the fireplace, never thinking about it. And now that I saw the movie The Booksellers, I'm thinking about it. So let's see what people were reading back in the day. Okay, J.M. Barrie? Peter Pan, anyone? These are some of the other works that J.M. Barrie wrote. And this book is from 1920. A classic, William Shakespeare. But the interesting thing about this book is this right here. It's property of the New York City Board of Ed, 1942, which means that my cousin Dick or Steve absconded with the book. They probably graduated with honors and nobody ever knew, but I know. Third book here. Notice the covers and how different they are from today. This book is Gulliver's Travels, and it dates from 1920, and very faintly, my dad, Louis Mittenthal, wrote his name in the front of the book. Next, we have the plays of Anton Chekhov. Once again, notice the cover, dating from 1935. This one's quite interesting, actually. I don't know if it would be of interest to anybody except me. It's called Meaning No Offense. The author is John Rydell, and it dates back from 1920. And this page, this looks like Noel Coward. I don't know that it is. This page somehow belonged in this book. I assume it's Rydell himself. I don't know. And I don't know that I ever read Meaning No Offense, being some of the life, adventures, and opinions of Trader Rydell, an old book reviewer in the dark continent of contemporary literature, including an assortment of strange interviews and literary follies, which made me, of course, want to look in the book and see exactly who Mr. Rydell interviewed. And it doesn't say. So you have to read the book to find out who he interviewed. And you know what? I think I'm going to do that. Okay, 2 classics. 1, the plays of Oscar Wilde, and 2, the plays of Oscar Wilde. These are volumes 1 and 4. I don't know what happened to 2 and 3. 1908 and the Florentine Tragedy, Le Saint Courtesan, The Woman Covered with Jewels. Never heard of them. In volume 1, however, Lady Windermere's Fan and a Woman of No Importance. This book, Man and Superman, George Bernard Shaw, dates back from 1903, and the beginning is a letter to Arthur Bingham Walkley. My dear Walkley, you once asked me why I did not write a Don Juan play. The levity with which you assumed this frightful responsibility has probably by this time enabled you to forget it. But the day of reckoning has arrived. Here is your play. I say your play because qui facit per allum facit per se. It profits like its labor belong to me. Its morals, its manners, its philosophy, its influence on the young are for you to justify. Not a bad way to begin a play. Man and Superman, that I have read. Next one's an interesting cover. It's called The Devil, and it's by Molnar, and it's illustrated. Actually, unfortunately, it has a ripped page, but it has a photo in it. And throughout the book, there's no other illustrations, but I guess they considered that an illustration. And it was written by Ferenc Molnar, F-E-R-E-N-C, and it was originally 1908. And here's from the foreword. There is a great lesson for all women and men in this wonderful story. It is one that will impress with its power. But I am glad to say that I do not fully believe in its truth. The devil here wins his victory, as he has won many, but each year as men and women get better, the victories of Satan are fewer. Good men and good women fight against evil and do not yield. This tragic, heartbreaking story by the wonderful new writer tells one side of the battle between good and evil that goes on in every human heart. It has its lessons for all men and women. It is a powerful warning against playing with fire. Its lesson, taught in the downfall of a man and woman, is, quote, keep away from evil and the appearance of evil, end quote. Kind of makes it stupid to read the book because you know exactly what's going to happen. All right, last 2 books. 1, Tales from the Hills. And again, note this book cover. And this is by Kipling, Rudyard Kipling. And the date in this book is non-existent. There is no copyright. Now, I don't know what that means. I'm not a book expert, but I bet a rare book dealer might want to take a look at that. This, of all the books, is the last book and my absolute favorite. It's called Growing Up. Yes, oops, perhaps we should put our finger there. It's a book about growing up. And the cover says, where do babies come from? Good question. I've often asked myself that. How was I born? Growing up answers perfectly those very difficult questions that every parent sooner or later is asked. It tells how we become alive, are born, and grow up. It is suitable for reading aloud to a child and simple enough for a child over 7 to read for himself. Its simple, sane, and skillful presentation has been endorsed by doctors, ministers, as long as ministers endorse it, you know it's good, educators, and over 175,000 pleased parents and the children themselves. And this book dates from 1945. And the chapter that I would like to share just the beginning of with you is called Pollen and Sperm. Pollen and sperm. Pollen and sperm. I'll read you the first page. Before an egg can become an animal or a plant, it must be helped to start growing. It cannot start by itself. The little eggs in the ovaries of the flowers would wither and die if something that we call pollen did not join them and help them to become seeds. Pollen is the yellow powder that you sometimes find on the tip of your nose after you have tried to smell a snapdragon or a dandelion or a lily. Nearly every flower has pollen. I'm not sure where the author Carl, oh boy, I can't pronounce his name, but he seems like a German writer. I'm not sure where old Carl is going with that metaphor. I'm not sure that the word sex is used at all in this book, but he has included pictures that probably excited someone and made them want to read the book. A classic. And there you have it, my friends. Those are the oldest books in my collection. If you haven't seen The Bookseller, you might want to. It's about an era that I'm afraid is dying or long gone. But books in the lit home remain, and reading remains. That's it for the Happy Homemaker.